A major vulnerability has been discovered in the Linux kernel that allows an unprivileged local user to gain root access on a wide range of distributions. This isn't a minor bug, it's a failure in the very core of the system that has existed for a long time. Security researchers have released a proof-of-concept exploit that demonstrates exactly how an attacker can take full control of a machine. This security risk is real, and it affects almost all modern Linux systems because the flaw is buried deep within the kernel's memory management. Stay with me because I'm breaking down every detail of how this mess actually affects you later in the video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you won't miss the daily updates like this to stay ahead of them. The specific issue is a use after free bug in the netfilter subsystem, which is the part of Linux that handles networking and firewalls. When the system thinks it's done with a piece of memory but doesn't actually clear it out, a hacker can step in and reuse that memory to run their own commands. This leads to a total system collapse because once someone has root access, they own the entire computer. They can read your private files, change your passwords, and even wipe your hard drive. Researchers have shown that this can be used to bypass all the standard security protections that Linux users usually rely on. This move by attackers is a disaster for anyone running a Linux server or desktop. If you're a friend who thought Linux was perfectly safe compared to Windows, this is a bitter reality check. The code that manages your internet connection is the same code that just opened the back door for hackers. It's a failure of the eyes on the code theory that says open source software is always more secure. Think of your computer like a house. Most of the time, the front door is locked and you have to be the owner to get into the safe. But this bug is like finding a loose brick in the back wall that lets anyone crawl inside and pretend they are the landlord. They don't need a key, they just need to know which brick to push. The exploit is incredibly reliable, meaning it doesn't just work by accident, it works almost every time someone tries it. If you're using Ubuntu, Debian, or even specialized versions like Fedora, you are likely at risk. The patch for this has been released, but the problem is that millions of systems aren't updated automatically. This creates a massive security risk where attackers can scan the internet for unpatched machines and take them over in seconds. It's a failure of maintenance. Many people set up their Linux machines and forget about them, thinking they are invincible. Now, that laziness is going to cost them. If you want to make sure your system isn't the next one to experience a system collapse, you need to subscribe and stay updated on these kernel patches. We're tracking how fast these fixes are actually reaching the average user. The personal take here is simple. Big tech isn't the only one that makes mistakes, but the Linux community often hides behind the idea that open source means perfect. This bug shows that even the most important parts of our infrastructure can have holes large enough to drive a truck through. If you're a friend who manages a small server or even just a home PC, you are currently cooked if you haven't run your updates in the last week. The exploit code is public now, which means the bad guys have the exact same instructions as the researchers. The drama gets worse when you realize how long this bug might have been there. Memory management is one of the hardest things to get right in coding, and the Linux kernel is millions of lines of code long. This isn't just one guy making a typo, it's a deep-seated architectural failure in how memory is handled during networking tasks. While the patch exists, the damage to the reputation of impenetrable Linux is already done. For a 7th grader, imagine your school locker has a master code that only the principal knows. Now imagine someone found out that if you hit the locker 3 times in a specific spot, it just pops open for anyone. That is exactly what this root exploit does to your computer security. It doesn't care who you are. If you know the trick, you're the boss. We are seeing a trend where these deep kernel bugs are being found more often. It's a security risk that affects everything from the phone in your pocket to the servers that run the entire internet. The move by the security community to publish the exploit is good for transparency, but it's bad for the friend who isn't tech savvy enough to update their kernel manually. The system is failing because the complexity of the code has outpaced our ability to secure it. The bitter truth is that no OS is safe. Linux users have spent years being sarcastic about Windows security, but now they are the ones dealing with a root for everyone disaster. It's a failure of the community to prioritize security over new features. The netfilter system is powerful, but that power is exactly what makes it so dangerous when it breaks. The longer this exploit stays public without everyone patching, the more machines will be turned into bots or have their data stolen. The system collapse is happening in real time, and the only way out is a reboot and a prayer that the update actually took. But while everyone is scrambling to patch their servers, a new piece of evidence suggests that this use after free bug might not be the only hole hackers are currently exploiting in the networking stack. The exploit code for this is now circulating online, and it's being described as a highly reliable way to jump from a normal user account to full administrative control. This isn't a theoretical risk. The proof of concept shows that the vulnerability is stable enough to be used in real-world attacks without crashing the system immediately. This failure in the NetFilter subsystem means that the very code meant to filter your network traffic can be turned into a weapon to bypass the kernel's memory protections. The reality is that this affects virtually all Linux distributions that have been updated recently. If you are running a kernel between version 5.14 and 6.6, you are likely in the danger zone. This move by researchers to release the exploit helps us understand the depth of the security risk, but it also means the clock is ticking for every friend out there who hasn't patched their machine. If your system is connected to the web, a local user or even a piece of malicious software you accidentally run could use this to lock you out of your own root account. Think about how this affects a regular user. You might think you're safe because you don't share your computer with anyone, but many apps run with their own user permissions. If one of those apps gets caught the attackers, the attacker can use this use after free bug to climb up the ladder and take over the whole OS. It's a system collapse of the permissions model that Linux users have bragged about for decades. We are finally seeing the bitter truth that even the most secure-looking system is only one memory error away from total failure. Microsoft and other tech giants are often the ones getting roasted for security holes, but this time, the open source world is facing a massive failure of its own. The exploit is specifically targeting the way the kernel handles NF tables, which is the modern replacement for the old IP tables firewall. Because this is a core part of the networking stack, you can't just turn it off without breaking how your computer talks to the internet. You are forced to choose between a broken internet connection or a security risk that lets anyone become the boss of your CPU. Imagine you're playing a game where only the admin can kick people out or change the map. This bug is like a secret button that any player can press to instantly become the admin. They didn't earn it, they didn't have the password, they just found a hole in the game's code. That is exactly what is happening to Linux right now. The admin root is no longer a protected role. It's a prize for whoever runs the exploit first. If you're getting value out of this breakdown, make sure to subscribe. We're watching the update cycles of every major distribution to see who's actually keeping their users safe and who's leaving them exposed. The move to disclose this alongside a patch was the right call, but the lag time in the real world is the problem. While high-end servers might get patched in hours, the millions of home PCs and Internet of Things devices running Linux might stay vulnerable for months. It's a failure of the update delivery system. Canonical and Red Hat have pushed fixes, but if you're on a stable branch that doesn't update the kernel often, you are basically cooked. The security risk has officially moved from a research paper to the real world. This use after free failure in the Linux kernel isn't something that requires a team of hackers to exploit. The proof of concept code is so reliable that it's being used as a template for web attacks. Because the flaw lives in the NetFilter subsystem, the core of how Linux handles every single piece of data coming from the internet, there is no easy way to hide. If your system is running a vulnerable kernel version, you are essentially leaving your administrative password under the doormat and hoping no one looks. The bitter truth is that this system collapse of security is hitting the most popular versions of Linux, including Ubuntu, Debian, and Fedora. While a patch has been disclosed, the move to actually secure these systems is slow. For a friend running a home server or a specialized workstation, this is a disaster. You're told that Linux is the secure choice, but right now, a simple local user can bypass every lock in the building and gain full root access. It's a failure of the basic promise that your OS can protect its own memory from being hijacked. If you want to keep your data from being cooked by the next big kernel exploit, make sure to subscribe. We are staying on top of these patches so you don't have to find out about a security risk the hard way. Think of this like a video game where someone found a glitch that lets them enter God mode. They didn't have to beat the game or find the secret key. They just used a bug in the code to give themselves all the power. That is what privilege escalation means. The hacker goes from being a regular player to being the person who can delete the whole game. In the world of Linux, that means having full control over the hardware, the files, and the network. The move to fix this is technically difficult because memory management in the kernel is like trying to fix an engine while the car is driving 100 miles per hour. One wrong move in the patch and the whole system crashes. This is why some distributions are taking longer to push the update, leaving millions of users in a state of failure. If you haven't updated your system and rebooted in the last few days, your shield is currently full of holes. The NetFilter system that was supposed to protect you is the exact thing letting the attackers in. Ultimately, this drama proves that big tech isn't the only one capable of a massive security risk. The Linux community is facing a reality check. Complexity is the enemy of security. We keep adding more features to the networking stack, and every new line of code is a new place for a hacker to hide. It's a cynical cycle where we fix one hole only to realize we've been standing on a trapdoor the entire time. Your root access is only as safe as the last person who checked the memory code. The era of assuming Linux is unhackable is officially over. Whether you're running a massive data center or just a laptop in your bedroom, the rules have changed. You are either patched and rebooted, or you are vulnerable to anyone who knows the God mode trick. The system didn't just glitch, it failed at its most basic job, keeping the wrong people out of the driver's seat. So what are you going to do? Are you going to stick with Linux and deal with the constant kernel drama? Or does a root for everyone bug make you want to go back to a more managed system? Let me know in the comments if you've already run your updates or if you're still running on a vulnerable version of the kernel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay informed before the next system collapse. The internet is a messy place, and you don't want to be the only one without a patch.